Good afternoon. I'm Lillian Lodge Copenhaver, Executive Director of the Copenhaver Center for the Advancement of Women in Communication here at Florida International University. I am pleased to welcome you to the Virgil and Joann Smith Thought Leaders Forum for Women's History Month. The AI Communicator, blending creativity, critical thinking, and technology. The presentation today is one of the signature programs of the Copenhagen Center in support of its mission to empower young women in order to develop visionaries and leaders who can make a difference in their communities and in their professions. Today, we are excited to have with us a speaker who will discuss a topic of critical interest to all of us, the daunting but dynamic future of AI. AI is transforming the communication landscape every day. This reality is requiring communicators to use critical thinking and creativity in order to tell an accurate and effective story and make the technology work for them and their audience. In order to be effective, the AI communicator must know how to use the AI tools which are available and judge how well these tools are telling the story. I know that you will have lots of questions about the topic, and we will take your questions following our keynote presentation. Please type them in the chat room. Our convener this afternoon is Erica Gonzalez, co-anchor of the CBS News Miami Morning Edition team. Prior to her return to South Florida, she spent 9 years at KDVR and KWGN TV in Denver, where she most recently served as evening anchor. Prior to going to Denver, she served as a reporter in Birmingham, Alabama, and as reporter and traffic anchor in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Gonzalez started her career as a public relations professional in her hometown of Miami before moving to television as an assignment editor for CBS News Miami. Gonzalez, a Miami native and a graduate of Florida International University, earned a bachelor's degree in communications and psychology and is a first-generation daughter of Cuban and Guatemalan immigrants. Our keynote speaker this afternoon, Emily Brown, is Microsoft's journalism director, focused on advancing a world where local journalism is trusted, sustainable, and resilient in the age of AI. She leads partnerships that help newsrooms responsibly apply technology, build AI skills, and strengthen trust with their communities. Her work includes placing engineers in newsrooms, supporting AI tools that can transform editorial workflows, and creating cohorts that help journalists prototype AI projects while shaping editorial policy. Before joining Microsoft, Brown was managing editor for audience and digital platforms at USA Today, where she led teams focused on social strategy, audience growth, and data-driven engagement. She began her career as a features reporter in Northern Virginia and remains passionate about helping newsrooms reach audiences and sustain high-impact journalism. In 2018, Brown was selected for the Poynter Leadership Academy for Women in Digital Media, a competitive program designed to develop rising leaders in journalism. She graduated from the University of Lynchburg with a degree in communications and a concentration in journalism, followed by a master's degree from Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Public Communications in magazine, newspaper, and online journalism. Our keynote speaker lives in Washington, D.C. It is now my pleasure to present Emily Brown.
Thank you so much, Dr. K. I'm so excited to be here. I wish I could see all of your faces. I'm picturing a ton of little squares on the screen here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a part of the Virgil and Joann Smith Thought Leaders Forum today for Women's History Month. Thank you to the Copenhagen Center for having me and creating this space for women to come together and learn from each other. I want to say hi to my mom, who's listening in from Stafford, Virginia. And the topic today is the AI communicator. But I want to let you know before we get started, this is not an AI training. I'm not an engineer, and this is not going to be engineer speak. We're going to talk about what it looks like to be a communicator and a journalist, because that is my background today in this rapidly changing ecosystem. So when I was asked to speak today, and that was a topic, I went into panic mode a little bit. I was like, what does this mean, the AI communicator? But it is the world I'm living in now, and we are all living in. So we're going to talk about blending creativity, critical thinking, and technology. And that's a lot to wrap our minds around, because the technology we're experiencing is happening around us as we speak, and it's changing so rapidly. So we're going to lean into the unknown and talk about how we prepare for our future in the communications industry when we don't even know what jobs we're really preparing for. Job functions are going to change a lot in the coming years, but that's okay. Here's why. Just by joining this call today, you are signaling that you're a curious person and someone who wants to learn and better themselves. And that's an incredibly important trait to have. Most of the job titles that you all will have do not yet exist. And I want you to think about that for a minute. They don't yet exist. Everything's changing so rapidly. And if they do exist, if the job title does exist, how those jobs are executed and performed are going to change a lot between today and 5 and 10 years from now. And that can sound really scary, but I am living proof that you can navigate a career in a wildly changing industry. So I went to the University of Lynchburg in Central Virginia, and I studied communications with an emphasis in journalism. And I wrote for the school paper. I had internships at the local Lynchburg city paper. And then I went to grad school at Syracuse, also for journalism. I became a newspaper reporter when I left grad school, and I loved being a reporter. And I thought, this is what I will always do. I will just move up to a larger paper and a larger paper and a larger paper, and I will always be a reporter with a byline. That's what I'll do. But newspapers started putting their articles online. Yes, I am that old. I saw the beginning of the internet in the news media industry. And if I wanted my articles on the website, which I did, I had to do that myself. No one was going to do that for me. So I was curious, and I learned how to put my articles on the website. I wanted it there for archive reasons, and I wanted it there to reach more audience. So that sparked just a curiosity, and that changed everything for me in my career path. If anyone is taking notes, I want you to write this down. Stay curious. So everything changed. I moved away from being a reporter and started exploring the online news ecosystem and what that looked like for my profession. I ended up going to USA Today, and I was there for 16 and a half years. It was an amazing place to grow. I started working overnights on the website, and I left there as managing editor for audience. I oversaw the editorial strategy and the distribution for USA Today's content across the website, the apps, all of those breaking news alerts that you get, social platforms, newsletters, podcasts, and consuming news in those ways did not exist when I was in college. Twitter didn't exist, right? Well, I'm X, whatever you want to call it, but it just didn't exist. So think about how rapidly how we consume news changed in the last 20 years. And then 3 months ago, I started a new role at Microsoft as journalism director, where now I help newsrooms experiment with AI. So because I learned basic skills about uploading stories to the web, I unlocked new opportunities for myself in a rapidly changing industry. And that was the digital revolution, and now we're in the AI revolution. But there's so many parallels, and my career took a totally different path from the reporting path that I was expecting. So I stayed in journalism. I moved forward with the technology. So for me, the beginning of my career, like I said, was that digital revolution. I helped guide my newsroom at USA Today through a digital first transformation. And what I mean by that is everything went into the newspaper first. It was all about that print newspaper. And what I helped my newsroom do is think about a world where everything went online first. It's hard to believe that we had to stop and think about that, but we did because we were faced with this massively new technology and new platforms. So I led us through a digital first transformation, and then a social first transformation, and then a mobile first transformation. And with each new technology and each new platform, we had to reinvent what it meant to tell stories and to connect to our audiences. As communicators, that will always be the heart of the job. How do we tell the stories and connect to our audiences? And I want to make sure everyone knows I'm using the term story really broadly here because, and audience as well. So for me, that deeply meant news articles and news readers and news consumers. But that can mean so many different things, no matter where you are in the communications field. So as we arrived here, in this fascinating time where AI is emerging all around us right now, it's time to once again reimagine what it means to share information that we need to share and tell the stories we need to tell to connect with our audience. Maybe it's a customer. So think of those terms really broadly. So I want to talk about some tangible things each of you can do to feel prepared for this unknown career path that will be strongly influenced by AI and will continue to change and evolve really through our lifetimes. So, all right, I have 8 tips here, so stick with me. The first thing I want you to do is to master the fundamentals of your career function. Again, for me, that was journalism. So what does that mean for your career path? Those fundamentals won't change. They won't change even though the technology does. And so what do I mean by that? As a journalist, it was stay curious, anticipate a reader's question, put accuracy above everything, provide context to what I was reporting on or the information I was sharing. And it didn't matter if I was a reporter writing a story or if I was writing a breaking news notification that would hit millions of lock screens on election night, or if I was creating captions for TikTok videos or about the Olympics. The fundamentals of good journalism don't change. And no matter what type of communications field you go into, there are fundamentals that are not going to change. Lean into those, put them in your core, and never let them go. So the delivery method does change from print to web to lock screens to social. Those fundamentals all stay the same. Use your field of study and your major, or look at, if you're a recent grad, look at your jobs right now. And again, just know those to your core. You will always need them no matter how AI changes the future of your job. So that's number 1, master the fundamentals. Number 2, stay authentic. Whatever job you land after graduation, or to the recent grads who are in their first and second roles, AI, it's not authentic, but you are. Believe in the work that you are doing, do it to the best of your ability, develop your voice and your ability to connect with other humans. That's what's going to differentiate you from anything that's AI produced. Human connection, human voice, and building community, that is going to be the differentiator in everything we do. Explore AI, use AI to support your workflows and do the things that humans don't need to do. But those connections and relationships building and your authentic voice is so important. Number 3 is be transparent. We will all use AI in our jobs. We just will, if we're not using it already. You will likely be encouraged to use AI in specific parts of your job where it makes your work more efficient. And current research, like that from the Reuters Institute and the Pew Research Center, tell us that people want to know when AI is used in content creation, like stories, as they're reading it. They want to know if the videos they are watching or the images they're seeing are produced by AI. And so as professionals in the communications field, you will be expected to be transparent with the people and audiences and customers you serve. So being transparent in how your content is generated, where AI is used, where it's not used. And it's not good enough to just say AI was used in creating this report or this story. Tell them how. AI was used in gathering research. AI was used in synthesizing data from video or transcribing videos. Like, be specific. Audiences want to know. Okay, so we're going to master the fundamentals. We're going to be authentic. We're going to be transparent. And we're also going to set our boundaries. Every organization in every industry is writing AI policies right now about how the technology can be used in that workplace and how it should not be used in that workplace. You need to know these policies for anywhere you're going to work, and also think about your personal boundaries as you approach your career. A very real example from the last few weeks is how the Department of War uses AI. And Anthropic, that's the parent company of the technology, and the Department of War had a disagreement about how Claude can be used. Claude is one of the LLMs like ChatGPT and Copilot. And so they had this very public disagreement about how the technology can be used. As AI is changing quickly and becoming part of our world quickly, we have to keep asking ourselves what we're good with and what we're not. And it was really interesting to see that play out in public just these last few weeks. Okay, so we've set our boundaries. Now we're going to lean into critical thinking. It is more important than ever. I hope that you're tired of hearing that because your professors are saying it to you all the time. There are no shortcuts when it comes to critical thinking. AI is a tool. It's so useful. It can also be a crutch and a shortcut. I did not use AI to write what I wanted to say to you all today because it was so important to me that I had original thoughts for you all and pulled from my professional experiences. And I looked forward to thinking critically about this topic and what I was going to say to you. Now, I did use AI to make sure I organized things well, but the critical thinking goes back to mastering the fundamentals and being authentic. If you can think critically for yourself, you won't be able to differentiate. If you can't think critically for yourself, you won't be able to differentiate yourself from your peers or from AI generated content. And again, it's the human in you that makes you better than the technology. All right, number 6, we're moving through these quickly. I want you to stay nimble. Lean into change so you can help lead the change in healthy and exciting ways. I'm sure you all have heard that saying now, you won't get replaced by AI, but you'll get replaced by someone who knows how to use AI. And that is so true. Learn the technology, just experiment. Learn the words that people are saying. What does LLM mean? And why should I know how that's built? What is chunking? All of this language that comes around with this new technology, even if you don't fully understand it, even go into ChatGPT and ask it to break down the fundamentals of how this stuff works, right? Learn the vocabulary so that you can be a part of the conversation and start to understand it. Which got me into number 7, which is learn the vocabulary. Whether it's AI or something else new, just understanding how to talk about it and be in the conversation will open up new opportunities to you and help you with your development and your skills. And the last thing I wanted to share is that communication roles are always an art and a science. Know both. Be creative and also look at the data. Know your audience for whatever work you are doing and think deeply and critically about how to solve problems and also explore big new ideas. Art and science, that is communications to a T. So these are my tips because I've worked in communications, specifically journalism, through other major moments of change. Besides my very first job as a newspaper reporter, all of the roles I've had in my 20 years did not exist when I was in college. And that is wild to think about. But I want to hear what you all have to say. I want to hear about your concerns and your experiences. And I would love to turn it over to Erica now to hear your questions.
Fantastic. Emily, thank you so much. It's difficult to figure out where I begin. Maybe I could use AI for a second to tell me where I should start. You touched a lot on the things that we can be doing right now, whether you're at the start of your career or, still in college throughout your career. Are there specific tools, specific websites, online courses that we maybe should be exploring that you would recommend to help us develop that vocabulary, to help us develop those skills?
Yes, so that's a fantastic question. I don't think I have specific named answers I can give you, but places to look. So I lean on again the journalism industry newsletters. Look at a lot of newsletters, even just doing a Google search if you don't want to do an AI search, but ask it to find communication industry newsletters if you're going into PR or if you're going into journalism or going into another field. Where is the industry talking about this? And subscribe to those newsletters. They will be free. And not only will they kind of aggregate news articles that are talking about it in your industry, but a lot of the types of places that are putting out these industry newsletters also put out programming that's also free, similar to this, where there's having conversations about it. So really lean into those. There should be a lot of tools, but honestly, ask your professors, and really a Google search will do it. And I did that over the summer before I got this job at Microsoft, where I just really wanted to learn more and I wanted to up my own skills, my vocabulary, and be able to talk about this because it is such a major part of our world, whether you're in communications or not.
I was hoping that we can touch on your role in USA Today for a moment, because it seems like you were a leader in the newsroom. Because there are people here who are listening who will one day be leaders, but before that, it takes a while to get there, right? What are some of the skills or the moves that your employees made throughout your time there when you were a manager in a manager role that really stood out to you, that made that employee more valuable than the one next to them?
Yeah, the self-starters. And by that, I mean the people who take initiative. They don't wait for their boss to say, hey, I need you to do this. You're anticipating the needs of what needs to be done. So you're always looking ahead. What is the work that we have this week or this month? And how can I get started on that? Part of that is, I think it's just, it's a personality trait. It's being ambitious and motivated, but also there's this term called managing up. And that is really about anticipating the needs of your boss. And that person is anticipating the needs of their boss. And that will get you far once you master that. Write that down, managing up, and talk to people about what that really looks like, because sometimes that's a hard concept to understand. But the self-starter, being motivated and ambitious, anticipating problems and not waiting to be asked. Those are, when I saw entry level, new employees who naturally were doing that, I knew that they were going to go far.
Okay, so we know AI is shaping nearly every industry right now. What, in your opinion, makes its impact on journalism and communication uniquely significant?
Trust. It's readers, news consumers are interested in AI in various parts of their lives, but not when it comes to the news and information that they're consuming. They are very suspect of how it's going to be used in journalism specifically, and they don't like it. So there's a major hurdle for the news industry to get over when it comes to AI use. And so when we talk about AI use in journalism, really anywhere, but there's kind of there's two ways to look at it. There's these like workflow efficiencies and these background ways that you can use AI to, these tools to help you gather research and synthesize data and create alt text for videos and things like that that aren't necessarily detrimental. It is detrimental if something goes wrong, but the other thing that it's going to be used is through generative AI. Is it being used to create this article that I'm reading, or did a human report and write this? And so when we think about the news industry adopting AI, those are the two big buckets. Is it kind of background workflow help, or is it generative AI? Is it public facing content? And the industry is really getting excited about the background workflow help, not only, excuse me, for making a reporter's job more efficient. Sorry about that. Not just about making the workflow more efficient for the reporters, but like if I'm in marketing, can I create better marketing content to pitch an event to someone? It's more tailored to what they need. Or if I'm in sales, am I finding someone who might want to advertise with us and I have a more tailored experience for them because I've used AI to aggregate all this data and do all this work for me? So there's a lot of business function in it, not just the newsroom function. But when we're talking about generative AI, that's where it gets really tricky, because did it pull together this newsletter? Maybe I'm okay with that. Maybe it took all of this human written content and just aggregated it into a newsletter. I might be okay with that, but did it write the words? And that's where everyone's still like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay, now we have a question from Yeseni Camejo, and she's asking, accuracy is a big concern. Is there anything that you use to help with learning how to avoid content slop from your agent, or learnings from how to spot bad research?
Yeah, I just like all of you, I am working on like how I identify what I'm consuming that is AI generated, or in my social feed, like, is this real? And sometimes if it's like the bunny jumping on the trampoline and I find it funny, I'm like, it might not be real, but that's okay. No harm, no foul. But there's a lot of room for harm and foul. One of the things we're talking about in the industry a lot is content provenance. And that means, how do we trace this piece of content back to its original source to prove that it's true? So already we talk a lot about trust in media, and it's very normal now to see, you're reading an article, you can click on the reporter's byline and get a bio about that person. That seems very normal. That didn't used to be there, but that is about building trust. That's about showing that this reporter is a human and you can read more about them and see all of their expertise. News organizations, many organizations, publish their mission statement on their website. Again, that's about building trust. That's about saying what we stand for. A lot of those signals, which are so important, just aren't enough anymore. And that's where content provenance comes in, where there's like a technical trace of where this content originally came from, so I can really prove that it's true. It's not super easy to do, but there's a lot of tools being developed right now that are going to make that more easy, more readily available. And I think our audiences, no matter where we are consuming news information, health information, financial information, we're going to want to trace it back to see what's the original source, where did this really come from. So I think that's a huge conversation when it comes to trust right now.
You mentioned the sort of two buckets when it comes to how newsrooms and news companies are using AI or considering the use of AI when it comes to the generative part of it. Are you seeing that being used right now with any major news outlet? And what does that look like?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of, I can't think of an example where there would not be what we call a human in the loop, where if content is generated by AI, there will always be a human checking that content through the process and at various stages of the process, and definitely before it's published and public facing. I heard this morning, actually, I was at an event sponsored by OpenAI and Axios, and one of the panelists said, we call it human in the lead, not just human in the loop, but human in the lead, to really show that this is still human-led content that has been helped along by AI. When there is AI-generated content, totally AI-generated content that is public-facing, everywhere now you're seeing transparency notices. So something somewhere says this was, created by AI, and everyone's working on that language. There's also been a lot of mishaps, a lot of embarrassment. Last summer, there was a books list published, and it was published in the Philadelphia Inquirer. It was published by Chicago Public Media. Like, it ran a lot of places because it was created by a newsroom that distributes content out to other newsrooms. These books did not exist. These were not real books. They were not by real authors, but it was this books list. And so there's a lot of embarrassment that's still happening if there's AI generated content and the human in the loop fails.
Yeah, that is a mishap. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, what does an outlet do at that point?
You apologize.
Yeah.
It goes back to being transparent and running corrections, and corrections are not new when it comes to, and transparency is not new when it comes to news and information sharing. And I think because how we write connections and how we write corrections and how we engage with our audiences has developed so much over the last few years, to be more, just sound like a human and explain what went wrong. Audiences don't mind. They're glad that you told them, and they're not so angry that you made a mistake. They're happy that you told them. And that is actually part of a trust building system. Writing corrections is, talk about an art and a science. Like, you have to tell them what is correct, and you want to tell them, something was wrong. You don't want to repeat the wrong information, but you need to share the correct information. And it really shows that you're a human. It could be as simple as, I remember we sent out a newsletter at USA Today. It was a daily newsletter, and just the way the system worked, we accidentally sent out the newsletter from the day before. And we looked at it and we're like, we just sent yesterday's newsletter again. So this was like a low stakes situation. We sent the correct newsletter, and we kind of made this joke of like, we're sorry, we haven't had our coffee yet, here's today's newsletter. And so, but there are times where it's terrible and critical, and you've announced someone's dead and they're not dead yet. I mean, that truly happens. You have to really think about how you correct that. But so that goes back to what happens when you do those embarrassing things. You own it immediately. You are transparent with your audience about what went wrong and how you're going to approach it to fix it in the future.
Okay, I have another question now. Do you think that forbidding students from using AI in assignments is inhibiting the development of their work-related skills? This is a controversial one.
This is really controversial, and I was at a conference at Arizona State University in January, and I really appreciated it. Was on journalism and AI, but there were a lot of educators there as well, and I was really appreciated hearing the educators speak about this. And the professors were saying, like, how can we tell students that using AI is wrong when AI is the technology that is transforming the world around us and will transform the jobs that we're trying to prepare them for? So is the conversation you can and cannot use AI, or is it this is how we can use AI? And so similar to the policy writing that I was talking about that's going on in every newsroom right now, in every company right now, not just in news or in communications, but everyone has to establish these boundaries. Everyone's going to use it one way or another. So what is okay in this class and what is not okay in this class, or what is okay at FIU and what is not okay at FIU? And I think that's the conversation that needs to be had.
Okay, this next question is, hearing you mention this concept of content provenance is so calming. I've been concerned about the rapid pace of the advancement of AI with the harms and misinformation that are entangled with it. What ethics code, discussions, or groups that are forming right now that you're hopeful about, given your focus with the role in Microsoft?
Yeah, and just can you say the question part again? What groups am I hopeful about, or just say that last part again?
Yeah, so what ethics code, discussions, or groups that are forming right now that you're hopeful about or giving you hope given the state of affairs?
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful every time anyone is having this conversation, no matter where they are. If it's, oh crap, we don't have a policy around this, we need to develop it right now, versus the places that have a policy in place since 2024 and because they were ahead of the game and they're already refining it because they see everything changing around them, and it's going to take that constant state of refining it. There's a lot of cohorts, just groups coming together of and I can speak to the news industry to help each other write this. Like, oh, you guys are working on a draft of your policy, of your AI policy in your newsroom, and again, it doesn't have to be a newsroom, right? Fill in the company. This could be two hospitals talking to each other about their AI policy and the language they use. And, oh, we didn't think about that. That's a good thing to plug in. So get it coming together to work on those together. Anytime I see that, that's what I'm hopeful about, because this is much better done collectively than in a silo. Like, everyone is going through this transition together. Let's work through it. Let's work through this technology change together and the policy writing together. That's where I'm most hopeful.
I'm curious, based on your experience and the organizations that you come across, how would you describe the pace in which newsrooms are adopting AI?
It is so varied. It is incredibly varied. And I'm going to reference back to the panel I saw this morning. And so there was a woman, a leader from the Boston Globe on the panel, and a leader from Axios. Axios is new media, very AI forward. It's a use it or get out of our newsroom type of thing, and has been for a long time. Early adopters, unapologetically using AI, ahead of so many newsrooms in doing so. So there's the fast model. Boston Globe admittedly was a little bit slower. She said that out loud. She said, we have research. We've surveyed our audience. They do not want to see articles created by robots. And we are still leading with human-led journalism. However, Microsoft and OpenAI together sponsor AI engineering fellows in 10 newsrooms across the country. One of those is at the Boston Globe. So are they still experimenting with AI? Absolutely. Are they more cautious about it and doing it more in a more slow manner than a place like Axios? Absolutely. So it is all over the board. And that's just in the US. I mean, if you look outside of the US, Norwegian countries are way, way ahead of the US and their adoption of AI, and that includes in the news industry. United Arab Emirates, UAE, way ahead. Other countries, global south and global majority, not the same. A lot of that comes down to just how rich the country is and how the technology is being diffused across different cultures.
That's fascinating. The Boston Globe, would come out and say that. But it's also interesting that you have that connection to them, that,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, absolutely. So I would say everyone is talking about it or experimenting on some level, even if they are the ones who are anti-AI. They're still talking about it and experimenting. They're just setting their guardrails. They're saying this is what we're okay with and this is what we're not okay with. So let's experiment in the space where we are okay.
Yeah.
And those culture changes are happening, like I said, at different rates across different newsrooms, across different countries at different paces.
So you mentioned when you were at USA Today, and there sounded like a big pivot moment for you where you were open to the idea and wanted to post your articles online. And it's almost like you understood that this was a big deal. Can you take us back to that space? Because I'm curious to know, were you nervous? Were you scared about what was to come, this whole world that we didn't have a great understanding of, at a point in your career where it sounds like it made a big difference that you were open-minded to it?
Yeah, so when I learned to post articles online, I was actually at a newspaper that does not exist anymore, sadly. It was called the Potomac News, and that was in Northern Virginia. And then that just I wasn't scared to do that. And honestly, it was curiosity and maybe a little bit of vanity, which a lot of journalists have, right? I wanted my articles in front of more people, period. I wanted my articles archived on our website. And the only way that was going to happen is if I was going to do it. And golly, I'm going to do it. So it started with that curiosity and that desire, but that just opened up new possibilities for me. From that reporting job, I actually took a job at AOL and wrote, oversaw like entertainment content. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I work at a tech company. And then I really missed being in news and being in a newsroom. And that's when I went back. I did a short stint at Stars and Stripes, which is an independent military paper. And then I went to USA Today. So that was like early career. And then most of my career was at USA Today. I wasn't, I wish it wasn't as calculated as it could have been. But it was just the curiosity and the opportunity. And then one opportunity leading to a next. I learned how to post my articles online. So I learned a little bit of code. Again, a journalist, I'm not an engineer, but I, learned very simple code so I could do that. And that was appealing to AOL when I did entertainment content for AOL. Well, then I had worked at AOL. So then I got a job back at a newspaper as an online producer, as it was called those days. And so it's like one thing led to the other, and it charted this path. But it comes back to, I keep saying this, but the curiosity, it comes back to being motivated to keep myself relevant and just saying yes to new opportunities. And at USA Today, the reason I was there for 16 years is because I constantly had new opportunities that excited me with these changes in technology. So I was sitting in the newsroom. I will always call myself a journalist. That's who I am. Even though I work at Microsoft now, I work at a tech company again. I am still a journalist who works at a tech company. A journalist is who I am and how I identify. And so I took that path as a journalist, but sitting in these seats where I could lead editorial strategy, but for a social platform and for a lock screen. And what does being a journalist on those different platforms look like?
I think we might have some viewers right now who want to know what AOL is.
Yeah. Thanks, Erica.
I know what it is.
Yeah. So AOL is a company, stands for America Online. At some points, they were called America Online, then they were called AOL, and they went back and forth. But for a lot of us, that is the beginning of our experience with the internet. It was the place that I think we'll think about ChatGPT as this for AI. For a lot of people, their first experience with AI is through ChatGPT. And for, I would say, a huge percentage of us, our first experience with the internet was through AOL, where they created places where we could have chat rooms and communicate, and browsers where we could search for things, and instant message where we could do, direct instant messaging. So this was revolutionary technology at one point, and I lived through that.
That's a fascinating background to be able to to make that pivot from a newsroom to a tech company back to a newsroom.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that helped with your development career-wise. So we have another question now. With the development of sophisticated AI chatbots that sound like humans, how do you suggest we maintain an authentic voice when using AI to assist in writing press releases, memos, or articles?
Yeah. So you can train any AI model at the system level to speak like you, speak the way you would speak. And so whether that's you or the brand you're representing, or your company, you can define that voice. And I need to do that here at Microsoft with Copilot. I'm using it to help pull together my weekly wins, and I can send that up to my boss, to show her how great I'm doing. But I generate that and it doesn't sound like me, and it's so frustrating. So I need to take the time to go into at the system level, and you can do this with any, LLM that you're using, to make it sound like me. I don't like Oxford commas. I don't want a comma before the and, in a series. And that's just my journalism roots. So I get angry anytime I see an Oxford comma. I'm like, that's not how I would write this. That's not how I sound. So little things like that. Or we all know that the big dash, the M dash now is such a telltale sign of AI. I love the dash. That makes me so sad. But also, like, so what? We're all using AI. So what if I used AI, but I could go in at a system level and say, never use a dash. I don't want that. And I could share ways that, original things that I have written so that it learns my voice. And so that is something I think everyone will be doing, and definitely brands and companies, so that you can think about a marketing team at a large company. They can train their LLM to sound like their brand, use the language that's important to their brand and that image. And then you have, a huge team of marketers who have a unified voice when it comes to the things that they need to have a unified voice on. So you can do that like at a brand level, you could do that at your individual level, but I think it's just training it to sound like you. I also, like I said, I'm frustrated because I'm generating things that don't sound like me. And when do I say this is good enough, go ahead and send it? And when do I really go, this is trash? Like, it just sounds robotic. There's like, what are these words, and do I go back and just simplify and make it myself? That's all a process, and it takes work to make it sound like you. But it's time that you need to think about if you want to invest in that, because how much are you going to be using this tool?
We have another question. It is, what advice do you have for women navigating a field increasingly shaped by technology?
I have always had really strong women role models, one in my life and two definitely professionally. So the gendered part of this has never really been something I've been super focused on, right? But I'm a woman doing this, or so. I don't know that I have the best answer there, except for the things that I spoke about earlier, which is be authentic to yourself, set your guardrails, lean in and learn about the technology and about the things so that you make sure you have a seat at the table and in the conversations that you want to be in. And also find the people in your organization or in your life who you want to model yourself after for one reason or another. They really handle tough conversations well, or wow, they really know how to make people feel inspired, right? Look at those different things and those leader traits that you want, whether it's a woman or a man or someone who is non-binary, and think about how you emulate yourself and create a relationship with that person, and let them know that you respect them. Let them know that you're watching them, and that you want to learn from them. So it's not specific, I think, to women, but it's just about finding your path, staying true to yourself, staying curious, leaning into the change. Don't be afraid of it. But it can get tiring sometimes, right? Like all the change. But
Speaking of change, I'm curious, what, if any, what is maybe one of the biggest concerns that you have right now, or one of the biggest questions that you have right now about AI in journalism and communications?
I keep thinking about when is it going to happen that we switch from this, like right now it's new. We need people to like figure out their feelings about it. Like we're all getting onboarded to this personally and professionally. It's all happening right now. Like, I mean, I feel like it was late 2024 until now. It's still new and we're still in this like messy onboarding phase, like all of us to all of it. When is it going to switch? That's what I keep thinking about. When will we all be caught up and go, all right, we're all using it now. We all understand the language. And we've all figured out the like low hanging fruit ways to use it. And then we go into these more advanced ways to use it personally, professionally. You know, we talk about like agentic AI and all of these things. When is that going to happen? I don't know how long it's going to take all of us to get from level 1, where I feel like we all are now, to level 2. And I keep thinking about when that switch is going to be.
What is one thing that you wish every communication student knew about AI right now, in addition to the beautiful 8 tips that you already gave us?
Ooh, it's what you make of it. It's harmful if you use it in a harmful way, and it's helpful if you use it in a helpful way. I think that's the biggest thing. It's that simple. We can use tools for good or for bad. Use it for good.
For individuals who are maybe thinking about heading to grad school, given everything that we know so far about AI, what would be your advice to them if we're looking to invest in education even further?
Yeah, well, I'm sure graduate programs and undergraduate programs are looking at how to train the students with this, and like what courses and curriculum are necessary. So if you're thinking about graduate school, I would say try and look around the corner and peek into the future as much as possible to look for programs. If we're specifically talking about AI, like look for programs that are going to set you up for success in your field when it comes to AI. And I know that sounds really vague, but like find the institutions and the places that are forward thinking, who are already creating curriculum. That's going to change a lot what that curriculum looks like because the technology is changing a lot. But what does that mean? I went to Syracuse for grad school, and my program was called Magazine, Newspaper, and Online Journalism, which just sounds so like cute and quaint now. I was there really to focus on the newspaper track. Again, I wanted to be a reporter, and I was a reporter. But because I also had this exposure to whatever online journalism meant, that was really valuable to me when I was when I was moving up professionally. That was a powerful word to have in my degree on my resume. And so look for the opportunities if you're thinking about grad school. Look for the places and programs that are forward thinking and forward looking, that could serve you obviously with your education, but where even just that degree creates some conversation for you.
So given that you are AI forward and it's part of your everyday life, right? I'm wondering if you could share with us, how do you use it on a more personal level? How have you adapted AI into your world?
Yeah. I I do use it a lot, but I don't feel like I'm using it in very complex ways. I use it to adapt recipes all the time. I don't have that ingredient. Can this be a substitute? Okay, what about this? I think I'm getting over a cold, so I was saying, can I take Sudafed and Mucinex? Oh, I can. Great. Like, and checking all of that to see like, and when can I throw some ibuprofen in there? So a lot of just like, really what I challenged myself to do is anything that would be a Google search, I'm trying to do it in AI first and see what that feels like. Is it a better experience for me? Do I get more information? Also, I'm a journalist. I'm incredibly skeptical. Even though I'm using AI, doesn't mean I trust it. Doesn't mean that I'm not fearful about how it's going to change things in the world. All of that is still true, but I am using it. I am learning it. So recipes, medicine, travel planning, a ton. And if my mom is still on here, like, I'm working on it, mom. The family's going to France this summer. But talking about how to group, we want to do all these activities, put together an itinerary day by day. And it'll say, okay, these things are near each other, do those on Tuesday. And then these things are near each other, do that on Wednesday, because this other museum isn't even open on Wednesday. So all of that has been really useful for me. I don't think it's incredibly complicated. I haven't set up an agent, but anything that was a Google search, I'm trying to do with an AI tool.
I love that. I feel like that's a very approachable challenge for probably anybody who's listening in right now, just to get more comfortable with it. We
Yeah.
do have one more question. What advice would you give someone transitioning into communications field later in life after a career change, especially when there are concerns about finding work due to age, limited experience, and the growing role of AI in the field?
Yeah. Um, Make yourself the most valuable person in the room. You have years of experience, professional experience, and life experience that is incredibly valuable. Transfer that into how you execute on your job, and make it relevant. And so again, finding the forward facing, the forward looking programs and curriculum that are going to support you making this transition, and looking out to the broader industry. Like I was mentioning at one point, with like newsletters and free seminars and things like that, they are really good and really helpful. I did that before, like, as I was switching from USA Today to this role at Microsoft, and it was really valuable for me. I thought, oh, I don't know if this is worth the time. It was very much worth my time.
All right. I think we probably have just a couple more minutes. Emily, I wanted to give you just one more opportunity. Is there anything that we maybe haven't gotten to that you want the individuals who are here today and participating to walk away with?
Yeah. We're here for you. People want to help you. They want to see you succeed, and they want to help you. So reach out. Use the alumni network with FIU or whichever school you're tuning in from, and know that people want to help you. So do reach out.
Yeah, beautifully said. I echo that sentiment as well. So I would just say, Dr. Copenhaver, Emily Brown, Emily's mom, if you're still on, hello to you. You should be very, very proud. Just thank you so much for to Dr. Copenhaver for making this available to us today and allowing us to participate for this beautiful discussion. I know that Emily, you have given us so much thought-provoking items today and definitely giving us some guidance in a world right now that we so desperately need it when it comes to AI. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everybody who's here today.
Thank you all.